Oh, we are live. First of all, this is a bonus Your Bold Voice LinkedIn Live today. I got this idea entering season one, and my guest, well, I'm the guest today, but the host on my platform, Kristen, was my first guest, and I guess I can say this, Kristen. You're more than just a soul sister. You're like a love of my life, and we just met like we've only known each other for about a year. And I asked Kristen if she would step into this role today. You didn't even hiccup. I don't think you even took a breath. You just said yes. You just said yes. So this is a bonus episode today where Kristen is going to interview me, and the reason why I thought about this is. A lot of women are like, Kim, what's a bold voice? What? And it's like, gosh, there's not just one answer for all of that. So before I turn the microphone over to Kristen, I see Wendy has jumped in. And Wendy, thank you for joining us. Your support is just so endless. And thank you. For those of you who are logging on and jumping in, if you are listening to this LinkedIn Live, you have to text something and say, hey, hello, whatever, or Kristen and I don't know that you are here. Number one. Number two, we are not going to be ignoring you. So bring your burning, yearning questions to the show today. And we'll take a break at some point in time in the interview, and we'll answer the questions for all of you. So I'm going to turn this over to Kristen, and I get to sit back today.
Welcome. This is an incredible privilege. I'm super, super excited to be able to interview you. I just think you have so much wisdom and you're so passionate about this work and see so much potential for women. And I know it comes from such an energy of wanting everyone to have the opportunity to really use their voice and make that impact that we're all here to make. And so it's going to be really fun where I get to ask you some questions and get people to get to know Kim, going a little bit deeper. Right. So we know that Kim, the thought leader out there in the world, but people I think want to get to know Kim too a little bit more intimately. So I'd love to start off, Kim, by just before you even got into this work, right? Like walk me into your road. Show me your pathway a little bit that got you into this work that you're so incredibly passionate about.
Well, I come from let me breathe. Can you hear the echo?
I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, but not too bad.
Yeah, I wonder why that's happening. I've got it. Oh, there we go. It's settled down. I come from, when I was younger, I was the girl out on the sidewalk organizing the hopscotches and the Mother May I game. I'm dating myself, by the way, hopscotches, Mother May I's, and orchestrating and getting things going. And I can remember my parents yelling out the front door, "You have got such a big mouth. You are so bossy. Settle it down," and so it was things like that when I was growing up. And I thought I just took on this message. First of all, I was a shy child, but yet my parents were concerned about me being a shy child because I was to be seen and not heard, is how they were raising me. So they enrolled me into the local dancing studio around the corner when I was 7, which is a very old age, at that time to start lessons. They did that to bring confidence out in me and not to be such a shy child. So I had mixed messages when I was growing up. Okay, you're to be seen and not heard, but don't be a shy child. So my whole life became, I was reflecting, Kristen, on this the other day. My whole life became this dance studio until I turned 18, competing, performing. And I was reflecting back on that whole process that studio took us through. So that was the beginning steps. But, I was that girl that took my voice and implemented a way that I thought my parents would accept me, the world would accept me. So I went and built a phenomenal corporate business, all based upon lies, and that's the whole other story, and was very successful. But I was lying. I was faking it until I made it. I would say things and do things that I thought society and everyone would accept me. for and as. So I hid my authentic, vulnerable, bold voice for quite some time.
Yeah, it's a story I hear too often, right? And what I find quite unique with your story, Kim, is the fact that it was the mixed messages, because what I hear a lot of is either you're put in this category or the other category, but here you are, it's like it's very hard for you to find your bearings because it doesn't feel like anything's acceptable. And so when did you start to notice, because I heard you saying in corporate there was a persona of who you thought you needed to be, when did you start to notice the real Kim who's always been there, who was hiding a little bit, started to come out?
I started dabbling with the real Kim after I left corporate and started my first business, which is a fitness business, and that's still alive. It's alive by this much. That I started that 25 plus years ago. So I started dabbling into Kim, but wasn't still really ready to get to know Kim. It was probably around 40, my early 40s. I was having, I can get right, timelines are not great with me. So about 17-ish years ago, when we were out of this house doing a major renovation, we were living in another home, we were renting, and my fitness business was at an all-time high. And I can remember the anxiety. And I was teaching spinning classes and seeing clients. And I remember at the club around the corner here teaching the spinning classes. I'm lean, mean. I was in good shape. I was out of breath when I got to the top of the stairs to enter the spinning room. And I got to teach a spinning class before I even get to that. And we would come over here and check on the house. And I would look at the stairs because we have to go upstairs, check out the house, what's going on. And I would look at those stairs and go, oh my God. My heart would be beating by the time I got to the top of the stairs. And I was in great shape. And I think it was that moment behind closed doors when my head would spin like the exorcist of anxiety. I would have the blow up of the anxiety. And then after the anxiety came the depression. It was very difficult. I would teach a spinning class and I'd come home soaking wet in my sweaty clothes, get them off, put on my robe, crawl into bed and crash for 2-3 hours, which exercising is supposed to be invigorating us. There was that, and my behavior behind closed doors was the very first step. And I believe that was, like I said, approximately 17 years ago, was the first step into getting to know Kim.
Yeah. And what did that stuff look like, Kim? Like, because I like what you're identifying for us, that it's sometimes people just feel like it's this all of a sudden you wake up one morning and I'm a new Kim, but it tends to be for a lot of people. Maybe for some people that is their journey. And for others, it can be lots of different steps as you're starting to unravel. And I like to talk about an onion and you're taking off the layer after layer after layer. What did that first step start to look like?
I was having lunch one day. Gosh, I remember this like yesterday. I was having lunch one day with a friend of mine, and she's also a fitness trainer. So Nancy and I have a lot in common. And we were having lunch, and I was telling her, I'm like, God, these anxieties, I'm insane. We're in the midst of building this beautiful home that we live in. And I think I was so off. And she said, I was saying to her, do you have a recommendation for a therapist? And she goes, yes, I do. I see this woman. And I said, name a number. We left the restaurant. We were standing out on the sidewalk, which is right here in the city that I live in. We have a downtown area. And she said to me, Kim, would you be interested in going to this woman's retreat weekend? I looked at her, I said, yeah, I don't care who, I don't care where, I don't care how much, I don't care. Yes. She goes, oh, hold on. She goes, well, you can get to know the woman who's leading it and go to her home and, understand a little bit more of the background and stuff. She gives me the dates and said, Kim, that's when we're moving out of the house to go into the rental property to start the construction. I said, just sign me up. Well, I never met the woman that was leading it until the day I arrived, but there was a lot of pre-work going on to this weekend retreat. And I have no idea what I'm walking into. I don't care. Woman retreat. I had to fill out paperwork of a lot of questions, therapy, why are you doing this? And I kept repeatedly writing, all I want is peace within. I just want peace within, because I was dealing with anxiety. And at that time, I was still having a menstrual cycle, which those hormones were playing in. And I entered in therapy with Eve. Oh my God, I love Eve. Eve is no longer in Michigan. She's down in North Carolina. I love Eve. Eve was a huge shift. And stepping into this weekend retreat. So I arrive. I don't know anybody except for my friend Nancy, who I was having lunch with that day. I'm getting settled in. I'm going to have a roommate, and they draw us into the building. They close the circles. You know, they're first of all, they're laying down the lay of the land for the weekend, and we close the circle, and we're going to wake up the energy, right? Okay, and here's exactly what I do when I'm sitting there to myself. What the F did I just pay for and get myself into? I mean, seriously, what the F? And I'm like, okay, Kim, breathe, check yourself back in. So we do all that, and we go on, and we're doing this, and the next morning, and I recall, I'll back up a second. One of the things that I had to sign off on when I arrived that Friday afternoon was, you are to complete the weekend. Okay, here's my attitude. Screw you, I got a car, I got a key. Okay, I mean, I really needed to be there, my attitude, okay? So the next morning, they opened up after breakfast, they did this exercise, and it just something embraced me so much. I knew I was right where I needed to be. So I let go. I surrendered. And one of the things that happened that Sunday afternoon, there's 18 women doing this work, this journey. And they send you out, no talking. Okay, 18 women, no talking. And I'm listening to the herons in the pond, and they're making their heroning noise, and it's getting cloudy, and it's starting to spit. And here's what happened, Kristen. I looked up to the sky, and I said to myself, God, all I want is peace within. Good Lord, help me. I just want peace within, because I was going crazy with anxiety, and I'm anti-medication. So I'm trying to do this naturally. I looked down, starting to rain. I thought, oh, go back and sit by the fireplace and journal a little bit. I looked down, and in the ground was this little something. And I'm like, oh, okay, a cool little rock. So Kim bends over. I take my finger and I dig it up from the dirt. And it was a peace sign charm. Hence, there's peace signs all over. And when people see peace signs, they think of me if they know that story. But that was such a crucial turning point. But after that weekend, I got back in my car, drove to the rental property because we were in the midst of this, and I still was not ready to go full in. Still was not ready. So that was my first shaking taste aha moment, along with many years ago. I have a closed head injury. I don't have hearing in my right ear. My first marriage, I was saying a lot of things and not listening to myself. And I believe that this is a tender, loving care. You need to pause and really hear and listen. So and I wasn't ready for any of getting to know Kim way back then. But that weekend, that peace sign was very instrumental, even though I still went full force out. I got in my car and was driving home. That was the first major step.
Wow. Wow, I hear so many things in what you just said there. One of the threads I want to pull out there, because I'm sure it's something you see a lot with the clients and the women you work with, is that resistance, right? So it's interesting because in a way the resistance wasn't there because there was something in you that knew when you committed to the retreat without knowing at all what the retreat was going to look like. But then when you got there and saw what was going to happen, there was some resistance that showed up. So when you start to think about the work that you do with women and getting to that place where they're really owning their bold voice, what is some of the resistance that you see, the patterns you notice that keeps women from being able to own their bold voice?
Well, I like to say it's like the icing on the cake. We're the cake, and the icing or the cherry is the fear. When it's fear is, let's get into this, false evidence. It's just such a liar. It's not real. So the inner critic kicks in, and I call her the hag in the attic. And then I start seeing excuses or, having to get into other people's opinions and that resistance and those walls. And then they turn, which I did this for many years. Instead of going straight or taking a left, they take a right and start putting on a different form of a suit. I mean, I wore that suit as a fitness, as having a fitness business as a fitness trainer. My body had to be perfect, perfect. And in my mind, my body was not perfect. So I would buy men's sweatshirts in mediums and larges so they covered my body. I mean, I had such a dyslexia of what I look like in my mind, and that's another way of choking down my authentic voice. And this is what I see women do. They metaphorically go buy that extra sized sweatshirt or shirt, put it on, button it up, and cover up. But as long as we stay underneath that oversized shirt, as opposed to buying the comfortable size, so to speak, that fits us, it owns us. As long as we choose not to share our stories, those stories own us. They choke us down. We start living based upon what we think others need us to show up. We start living upon society. I was living, I thought, God, if I had a successful corporate career, my parents would accept me and stop talking about everybody else that was so successful. And I was the first in my family to have a very successful corporate career. That wasn't it. It wasn't it.
Yeah, what it reminds me of, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the hag in the attic. I talk about the saboteur, and a lot of times what happens is, with one of the things I'm hearing is that people are looking for validation, for acknowledgement, for recognition in the wrong place, right? They're looking out there as opposed to looking within and being able to get to that place where there's actually a lot of self-love and self-recognition and self-compassion. And they're looking in the wrong place. They think if they look out there, they'll find it, but it's a journey to go on that inward journey that I hear with you when you talk about inner peace. So just for anybody who's not familiar with the hag in the attic, which is such an endearing name, anytime I think of you, Kim, and when you're talking about that, I just get a smile on my face, which is actually good, because the hag in the attic, as you're going to talk about it, was actually created to protect ourselves, right? So it's not that it's something we're trying to, because I know for my clients, a lot of time they're like, I want to destroy, I want to annihilate, I'm like, well, no, it was there to, like, what would it look to be a little bit more loving as opposed to trying to destroy it? So to talk to us about the hag in the attic.
Well, I hear the thing too is people want to kick that hag to the curb. No, ladies, no, no, no. She needs a job. She needs direction. She wants to feel wanted. And she's still going to continue to push the boundaries of, especially when we are getting ready to step out of our comfort zone. That's her job. She's the guard. She's like the sleeping guard that never sleeps. So, number one, don't attempt to kick her to the curb, because for those of you out there that are raising children, try to outscream a teenager. It doesn't work. That's what she comes back 10 times bigger. So we really do want to make our inner critic our ally. And there's so many ways to do that. One of the ways that I do is I metaphorically have this beautiful rocking chair that I've bought my inner critic with a cushion so her tushy does not get sore. I give her the best Tito's vodka for her martinis, the best cigars money can buy, and I just have her ruling the attic of my emotions and sensations. And she's like so happy when I say, look, sister, I need you. I've got sensations going on because I'm getting ready to go deliver this keynote. But what I need for you to do is manage that orchestra. And she's like, oh, okay, I will. And as opposed to get out, I'm kicking you to the curb, she's going to come back fighting even more. So I have dialogues with her. And I also want to get real clear. I do not have this conquered. I do not have this conquered. She was ruling me back in January when I was stepping out of a comfort zone. And what I can do is walk away when I come out of that and going, okay, learn this about myself. Okay, won't do that again. We'll implement this. She showed me some things, even though it was an ugly emotional time. But that hag in the attic, we need her. We need her. And I like to say to her in the back seat, don't get behind my seat so that you're kicking it. Get over to the other side so that you can turn around and look at all those other emotions and sensations. And please play my orchestra, but don't play where you're pulling out lack of confidence, lack of worth, second guessing, lack of self-trust, and all that. Pull them all out and manage them for me so I can get on in there. And I have so many other tools. When she starts chiming up, I have a question where I stop, and I have actually an index card sitting here on one of my other monitor. What do I need right now to trust and surrender? What do I need? And sometimes it's push away, shut down, get out. It's and allowing myself to show up, messy and imperfect, because I used to live that perfection life. Man, that perfectionism almost came very close to making me sick and tearing me down. And, it's like, Kristen, you and I were talking before we came on, and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about looking at this, applying to for speaking and stuff like that. And, it's our coach has spoken there, and I know you're the caliber, and I can't recall if you've ever spoken in this specific environment, but it's like, I take a moment and go, wow, wait a minute. Instead of going down the comparison road, I acknowledge myself and say, hey, I am just as good and I can do this, because you know why? I got the sisters around me.
Yeah.
So having those dialogues with her. And again, I mean, the other thing my hag has is she's got this cute little red sports car I bought her. And she backs down the driveway and doesn't make it to the street. She tears up the grass as she goes across, and sometimes she'll do something like this as she's driving away. I allow her to do that. In fact, that's an inner part of me, that rebel. I allow her to do it, but I've gotten better, not even nowhere near to complete, of learning how to manage her better. And I have my days where, it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I love so much of what you just said there. I just heard so much gentleness and grace as you're with her and befriending. And I heard so much curiosity, because what works one day might not work another day, and leaning in on your support network and friends and outdoors and getting away from the noise. But ultimately recognizing that it's always going, it's funny when I hear people say, well, I want to get to a point where it's gone. I'm like, well, that's not realistic, because I would challenge, and that means that you're not stepping outside of your comfort zone and hitting your edges, because anytime you're hitting your edges, it's going to show up in some small way. But I think what starts to change is more of a, hey, there you are. Of course you're there. I'd be surprised if you weren't here. Welcome, welcome. Let's go have a conversation. And then just being able to recognize that there's lots of different resources to tap into. But again, what I liked about your gentleness and grace is that maybe sometimes it's just about space. Maybe a part of you is just saying, I just needed 24 hours to do nothing and to be myself and allow what are emotions that are showing up to emerge, and be with them, and give yourself permission to feel and be with them.
Yeah, absolutely. We are such a society of good good feelings, emotions, bad feelings, emotions. Okay, well, there isn't such a thing as good or bad. They're emotions, they're feelings, they're sensations. But especially a lot of my clients, they're attaching, oh my gosh, I'm fear and I'm so nervous. It's like the more we talk about that is like giving spinach to Popeyes, giving spinach to that hag in the attic. The more she's going to show up with that, she's going to serve that up. Whereas, and I think, Alex, our coach, Alexia Vernon, by the way, that I'm referring to, that's how Kristen and I met, is she talks about Like you could be you can be scared and you can be excited. And she puts it together and calls it scare sighted. We can be scared. We could have up here, oh my God, my heart, but in our stomach, the butterflies of the excitement both going on at the same time. Or and hands, because this is where a lot of my sensations come. The clamminess of the hands, whatever that may be, is okay. Instead of lifting up the carpet, sweeping that baby under, because I can't look like I'm A, B, and C to get to X, Y, and Z, for I will be judged by the world.
Yes, yes, so much compassion there. So Kim, tell me, again, you're so passionate about this work. Tell me a little bit around the clients that you work with and what lights you up the most. What's that journey you love to go on with people?
Oh, so I'm going to back up a couple of years pre-pandemic when I was teaching my curriculum in person. And I never thought in a million years that I would see such miraculous shifts in women. And that's not me. Okay, that's the divine universe, God. That was the pour in the room that we were in. And literally I was experiencing like out of body moments and experiences. So that's one. I love seeing those shifts. Two, the other thing that I love right now working one-on-one coaching is just seeing these women's faces light up and how they just take that confidence up the next staircase of the stairs, and that eye opening, and having them shift from, well, yeah, my story or my topic, what I need to share, everyone's sharing it. Well, yeah, maybe there is a lot of people sharing it, but I want to tell you something. There's no one else like you, like me. That's the miraculous beauty of a human being. And watching women shift from this headspace, the masculine energy, the dominant masculine energetic world that we have been living in, that we're slowly shifting into that feminine energy and coming back down into their bodies. Shoulders are lowering, chests are opening up, and they're breathing, and they're becoming more grounded with passion and energy. That is my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important one for anyone listening right now, because I hear that one a lot. My story's not original. My story's not unique. So many people have had it harder than I have. The list goes on and on and on. But your lived experience, nobody else has had the same lived experience. Nobody expresses and shares the story in the unique way that you do. And it reminds me of, I've heard this with so many people, you could hear the same thing 20 times by 20 different people in 20 different books, but one time the certain person says it in the certain way and it just hits home. And so I truly believe that all of us are here to be doing that and sharing that story, to be able to give back and contribute in that way, because every time we keep doing it, somebody recognizes and sees something in themselves that they wouldn't have seen if they hadn't shared that story.
Yes. And and our stories don't necessarily need to be, from rags to riches.
Yeah.
Our story are riches. They are, because they're our stories. And we need to learn how to share those stories, because first of all, that is the human connection and the human experience. When we are up on a stage or leading a presentation, or here on the screens like this, we have to show the human side of us, or we just look like just another person. When I had my internet radio station, I told my husband, I don't care how big this it becomes or does not, I will never be unreachable and untouchable. And I even had women say, oh my God, I've been wanting to reach out to you for so long. I was just so intimidated. That breaks my heart. What's so intimidating? I mean, I've got my workout pants on today and a t-shirt. What is so intimidating? I'm imperfect. I can be messy. I can shed the tears. I can also laugh, and I can shake the groove thing and show up. There's no intimidation here. I've walked a walk. I'm still overcoming things. I really truly am still overcoming things. I'm up leveling the way I present and speak so I can be a better coach for my clients. That brings those sensations on. That starts playing, that starts ramping up that hag. I'm ramping up a lot of them. I'm ramping up my self leadership. It just gets those sensations going. I'm learning to embrace them better.
Yeah.
And celebrate them.
Yeah.
Celebrate them, and you know this, Kristen, because you're one of my go-to, or you are that woman that I go to where I'm like, do you have 10 minutes to get on a call today? Or I want to celebrate, or I'm in tears today, whatever the case may be. But it's getting so uncomfortable with being comfortable of yourself. And by the way, that is a bold voice. It's not one piece to a pie. It's the whole self. It's the whole pie, so to speak, or the whole cake, whatever you want to call it. It's getting so uncomfortable, beautifully embracing the comfortableness of ourselves.
Yeah. I love that. What's showing up for me right now, Kim, is you and I have talked a lot about this, what we're seeing in corporate and wanting more women to use their bold voice, to speak up, to bring more of that feminine energy, which has been really squashed for a long time. And I definitely can say with the work that I've done that I am noticing there's change happening, and really good change. And I also want to talk to you a little bit around the diversity and inclusion piece, because I know you're doing incredible work there too, and really making sure that other people's voices are being amplified. But let's start with women really being able to own their voice and be bolder in corporate. What would you like to see more of?
I would like to see, especially emerging leaders, because boy, those women are emerging. One, I would like to see with emerging leaders to lean in those meetings and share their ideas.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these emerging leaders are having teams come to them and say, you're not speaking up in these meetings. We want to hear from you. And to me, that is such a beautiful thing. To be able to speak up, whether it's a yay or nay around ideas and thoughts and opinions in that corporate, because every woman does have a place and a voice. What's the analogy? Make sure you get that chair at the table. If there's no chair at the table, build the table. Listen, don't go and build that table or go and look for that chair. Stand up, damn it, if you have to. Stand up in that room and take that space up. So emerging leaders, I'd like to see these women, be more vocal in meetings instead of playing that imposter syndrome. I don't have enough degrees. I'm still the new kid on the block. All that, inner critic. The team leads, women team leads, and women executives. I want to see them turn and embrace their voice and turn to these emerging leaders and say, come on, sister, I got you, because I can't break this floor and ceiling by myself. And start supporting when other women are speaking up in meetings or walking down a hall, so to speak, and going down a hall that is not expected, metaphorically speaking here, not expected of women to be walking down, or male dominant, is having other women step up for other women in corporate, as opposed to women still cutting down other women. And when that happens, by the way, ladies, none of us have arrived. I mean, I look up over my screen here out the window, and there goes that dinosaur walking across my yard. It keeps us prehistoric. So there's a lot of that. And we need to ruffle feathers. Oh, okay, so we need to ruffle feathers in corporate, but don't ruffle them so much that you get fired, because I don't want anyone getting terminated. But really showing up and speaking your truth without worrying about these men over here are going to think I'm just another crazy white woman or woman of color getting crazed out and really holding your ground. I mean, our country has a vice president in the vice presidential debates who leaned in and just looked at her opponent and said, I'm speaking. Okay, listen, and remove the labels, because she wasn't bitchy about it. She was not Miranda and the Devil Wears Prada about it. She was not bunny size playing over, hey, I'm speaking, I'm sorry, I'm speaking. No, she leaned in, I am speaking, because he kept, I just saw a clip of that. I did not watch it because he kept interrupting her. Mm-hmm. We need to get into that, that embracing empowerment of ourselves, where we can lean in and say, excuse me, but I am speaking, as opposed to letting things override us. And in being very confident in what we need and have to say in corporate, because there are women breaking and shattering. I say floors and I say ceilings. They're shattering those floors for the emerging leaders. They're pushing these ceilings as they are rising up. But it's really getting confident and not going into these meetings and saying, well, I'm going to say this, throw her under the bus, say this, because I've got, money on the table here. I've got pressure. As opposed to showing up and going, time out. This is what it needs to be done. And this is not all on women. Mm-hmm. We need men who are going to sit next side of us, not necessarily have to get out and offer me their chair, but are going to stand next to us or sit next to us and go, oh, yes, amen. Yes, we do. Men need the support.
Yeah, I think so many important things with what you just said there. I think so much about sponsorship, right? Because there's a lot of times where men are in the room that those women aren't in the room, and it's them using their voice and speaking up and advocating for those individuals who are not in the room and eventually getting them into the room. And I think it's really, really poignant and critical what you're saying around the women who are worked their way up and now turning around and helping others, because I can tell you many leaders who were kind of mid in career, and they were so shocked by female leaders who were high up, who were not supporting them. They were doing exactly the opposite. And, we're not going to make this kind of progress without that kind of stuff. And then the other thing that you said, I think is really important around the microaggressions, right? Every time something shows up. I remember watching a conversation recently with an incredibly bright woman of color who was a doctor, and the person who was facilitating, he kept on not identifying her as a doctor, and she said, you can refer to me as doctor. You can refer to me doctor over and over. So, well, that's not what it says on your screen. Refuse, push back, push back, push back, push back, wouldn't do it. And I have to say, when you watch that video, there's only one person that looks really silly in that video, and it's definitely not that woman speaking up. So I think, being able to speak up, but also there are times where there are men or other women in the room who also have an opportunity to speak up and say to them, I'm trying to hear what that person's saying. Please stop speaking over them. And we can all be collaborative in supporting and being allies to one another.
Yes, it takes both men and women at this. We've been talking about this table and women leaning into the table or building a table or grabbing a chair. We need both men and women at that table. We really, really do, and I see a comment here from Guler. She says, keep speaking, and it all starts at home, be heard and seen. She's so right. A lot of this is how, and I'm seeing, mummies, moms like yourself, Kristen, and, I've got friends that are raising young girls, and the empowerment and the leadership and the confidence, the things that you're pouring into your children, and you have a daughter and a son, and you're doing both, daughter and son, that you all are doing. I think that a lot of our parents, didn't quite have those. It was different, when I was growing up. We didn't quite have those insights and things like that. And when I was in corporate, there weren't talk about women shattering. There was not. And I was in corporate, a cult. I remember my last corporate gig, and I was handed to this position here locally on a gold platter because of my reputation and what I succeeded in corporate. Okay. I found this out after about a month or two in. They brought me on because in upper management, they had no women. And the other women in the company were screaming. So I was stuck between her. All the women wanted nothing to do with me, and nor did the men. So I sat in my office. The men would go to lunch, have their meetings, and then I'm getting ready to leave for the day. No, we got to discuss what we did at lunch. It's like, no, sorry, I'm out. Either you invite me to the lunch or we set a time throughout business hours. And then the women, I was so stuck between a rock and a hard place. I just went, that's it. I'm out.
Yeah.
I relaunched my fitness business, and I took a huge cut in salary when I did that. Handed them my resignation, and the one guy who was rallying for me, he's like, "Well, time out, you're not going anywhere." And I said, "Oh no," I said, "I've given you a month notice, but if we want to cut this down to 2 weeks, I'm game for 2 weeks because I'm out. And by the way, let me see, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm taking the rest of the day off. I'll see you later. Bye bye." Because I'm tired of the verbal abuse from the men in this company.
Yeah.
Enough. I mean, because I spent times in bathrooms there crying. It was horrible just so I wouldn't melt down in those meetings and go, no, I'm real clear why y'all put me in this position.
Yeah.
I'm not going to roll like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that toxic behavior is not okay. It's not acceptable. It needs to stop. And I'm seeing, and I like what you said about, I'm raising a son and a daughter, and I'm very cognizant of toxic masculinity as well, right? I'll say to my son, yeah, get pink stuff. You love pink, you go for pink. You cry, you're letting your emotions out. Great. Please do more of that. That's great. You're releasing. Mommy loves the releasing. Release, release, release. So it's helping those little boys as well, that the feminine and masculine energy, we all have them, men and women, boys and girls. It's just very quickly we're conditioned to be in going down one pathway or another pathway. And, I think all of the wonderful work that's happening in the LGBTQ plus community is even helping people understand even more all of the different identities. And it's not just even masculine and feminine, it's all of these different parts of who we are. And it's opening up so many things. And I am hopeful for the next generation when I see so much of the progress that's taking place.
Yes, I am too. Love is love. Human being is human being. Let's let it go from there, and yes, your children's generation, I mean, they're going to really rock and roll and rule this world. I mean, just that is going to be and I even think a little bit before them too. That's going to be this dynamic, pivotal shift and change that we need in this toxic society with all these labels and things like that. And that's the other thing is, it's like I say to ladies, okay, what are the 3 things you want to be left, what do you want to be known for? And let's tackle the one and speak up. Who cares if there is an in there or an and an or and a so? If there's a lot of that, sure, it dilutes your message. There's always room for improvement, absolutely, for growth here and things like that. But it's just getting yourself out as opposed to, I need to get this, I need to buy this, my I needs to be got up, my T's need to be crossed, and everything has got to be perfect before I speak up. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It does not work that way. We need to be heard. We need to be heard, not from a yelling, screaming standpoint, even though some women do need to yell and scream. I'm not gonna bosh that, but we need to be heard. Here's one thing I will say, because that's an ongoing thing within me. It's my inner child who was never heard when I was growing up. And as an adult, when I start rising up with that anxiety and I start getting a little edgy, I know I'm not being heard, and it's not from the people in the room. It's because I'm not hearing me. And that's when I need to push back and go, okay, breathe, because this is a default button here. And what do I need right now? What do I need right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to miss in our conversation. What's showing up for me as well, Kim, is I think it's really really important to look at intersectionality. And so when we have BIPOC women, they have even more that they're having to deal with and work with. So any women from BIPOC who are listening right now, and you giving recommendations around them being more bold and owning their voice, what do you want to see more of for them?
Oh gosh, I want to see more of them. I do. I want to see more of them. I want to hear more from them. I want to see them. I want to feel them. I want to hear them. No more hiding out because of whatever. I think it's more of that visibility piece, and I'm going to be very transparent. With everything. I love, whether a woman, transgendered, straight, gay, married, divorced, of color, I'm going to be very transparent. Many years ago, I never spoke like that. I never walked into rooms, and I just would walk into the room and I just saw humans. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to others, but I don't I see, but I don't shift, I guess would be the what to say, Kristen, is I see and I feel, but I don't shift because she may look different from me or whatever the case. I embrace that's one of the things that when I was teaching this curriculum in person, I had women that were struggling with this stuff you hear in their voice because they transgendered come into the classroom. I had women that would remove burqas and being disowned by families. I had women that were embracing their sexual identity and claiming, being that they were lesbian or, gosh, looking at their significant others, husbands, and going, or women that were transferred in, because Detroit is the big three, English is not their first language, and just the struggles and the holds back. So back to your question is, I want to see more. I want to hear more. I want to be embraced and be in the presence. Mm. That's how I learn and grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great that so much is happening and so many more conversations where individuals who previously didn't feel like they had psychological safety to say what needs to be said are feeling comfortable speaking up right now, because like both of us, we don't know what it's like to be in their shoes and have their experience. But I'm happy that you are working with a lot of people who previously perhaps weren't using their voice in that way, and that we can have them. And I think part of us, what we're doing is advocating when we're at events or when we're on panels, that we're asking, who's on the panel? Why don't I see any women of color on this panel? That we have an opportunity to use our voice in that way, to be allies and be speaking up whenever we have an opportunity to speak up.
Absolutely. I was just talking with somebody the other day. I can't recall who it was, and we were talking about privilege. It might have been a post here on LinkedIn. It was about privilege. Yes, it was a post, and it was, I do believe it was Stella Lieberman who put that out, and Stella was talking about privilege and how many privileges that she has not had, and how many privileges that we as human beings, as people have. And Kristen, as you know, you and I, we are Caucasian, we are white women, we have privileges. We can drive down the street in a very nice car and not have to worry about being pulled over at a stop sign, unless we, of course, blow through it and there's a cop sitting there. We have those privileges. But here's what Stella went on to even more say, and it made me sit up and go, yes. We all have a voice, and that is a privilege, and a privilege that needs to be used. And how can one woman to the next be supportive of a woman really getting just intimately reacquainted with her voice? Yeah. And I love the conversations because I am reminded of the privileges that I have grown up with. You know, when it's just something as simple of packing up the SUV last fall and going up north with 3 of my girlfriends, the 4 of us, hey, no husbands, no kids, you know, and we're going to go hang and watch the scary movies and go to the spa and take walks, and realizing that entering specific areas in northern Michigan, when we're around a political presidential race that's been going on, I forget. And as we're getting ready to pull out of the driveway, the one husband who reorganized the car for us and made us all nice and neat so things fit and stuff, looked at all of us and said, "You all need to be careful." And I just went, OMG, yeah. I don't think about that. You know, so I love being reminded. I love being, you know, pulled up to the top. To me, that's another piece of the bold voice. Just remind me, or, you know, nudge me, or Kim, you know, you might have said this, but it comes across as this, even though I know you didn't intend it to be that way. That's what we're all here for. That is what we're all here for.
And I think that's such a beautiful part of who you are, is that you aren't someone who would be defensive, and you're open and you want to hear and you want people to have a loving, honest, vulnerable relationship with you, so that you are constantly learning. And you would say, wow, thank you so much for being comfortable enough and courageous enough to share this with me. And I had no idea I was impacting you in this way. And now I have some learning and some data that I could use going forward. I think that's such a beautiful place for us to end, because I just think that reflects beautifully who you are. I know you to be that person. I get to know you quite intimately, and you're not someone who goes up here and says one thing, but behind closed doors is another person. Who you see is the real Kim. And she is imperfectly perfect. Like, she doesn't ever try to say, I have it all figured out. She wants to understand that I'm not the expert out here, and I don't know, and I haven't experienced all the same things you've experienced. There's this beautiful openness and acknowledgement that you're always evolving and always on your journey. And I think that authenticity is such a gorgeous part and delicious part of who you are, Kim.
Thank you. I'm still working on that one. And yes, I thank you so much, Kristen. Before we log off here, are there any questions? I see a lot of comments. I want to thank you, Guler, for showing up today, and Esther Rena, thank you. Wendy, thank you. Gina, let me scroll back down. Rezi, oh my God, thank you so much. Any questions, ladies, that we can address before Kristen and I wrap this LinkedIn Live up? Any last comments? Any last words? Make sure you're connected with Kristen on LinkedIn. I love my LinkedIn. I never thought I'd ever say that. I love my LinkedIn. I love it. Gosh, I don't see any more. I don't see any questions. I think that is it. I want to thank everybody that showed up today and supported and tuned in. And for those who were busy, they'll have a replay. And Kristen, oh, what an honor for you saying yes to this. You are amazing in that host seat, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, Kim, it's such a pleasure. And I just think you're doing really, really, really wonderful and important work in the world, and keep doing it. And I just want to say, all the women out there, please keep owning that bold voice and take steps like Kim showed you. It doesn't have to be the huge steps, every little step in the direction of getting closer to confidently owning your voice. Such important work, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kristen, and thank you everybody that joined us. This is the wrap of season 1 on August. Oh gosh, off the top of my head, I do believe it's August 17th will be the launch of season 2. Oh, we got some more women coming up in season 2. And we are also on the back end planning for season 3. I never thought in a million years this would go to season 2 and season 3. So I'm really enjoying this. And I love showcasing other women. And there may be a space or two for also amazing men on here as well, owning their bold voices. So make it a great week, everybody. And thank you for joining us.
Bye.